The one that really struck me was Darren Till. We mentioned the London show a couple times, and he had a big fight scheduled for that card against Jack Hermanson, and unfortunately he had to pull out. And we end up getting a guy that we've talked about on this show a lot, Chris Curtis, coming in on short notice for another big fight. And damn, like if he wins this fight, like he's got to be ranked, right?
Well, yeah, of course. And Curtis was on Ariel's show today. He said he got a new contract and a big pay raise, and he actually said that Darren Till is going to be in his corner for the fight.
No way.
Yeah, he sent out a thing on Twitter after he replaced Darren Till. Darren Till is saying, "Hey, Darren, I have a spot open in my corner. Would you like to be in my corner?" And Darren said yes, and so Darren's actually going to be in his corner for the fight.
So does Chris Curtis come out to Sweet Caroline?
I doubt it.
You want to bet $5?
I doubt it. You can't.
I bet he does.
You can't take Darren Till's entrance theme in England from him.
Yeah, but Darren Till's in his corner, man.
No.
He can be the sentimental favorite.
No, because
they'll be cheering for Jack.
Yeah. I mean, Jack's popular over there too. So.
Yeah. But that's fun, man. Like, what a great fight. Like, Curtis has nothing to lose. I mean, we've said this, how many, like almost every time he fights.
Yeah. But, the guy was retired a year ago.
Yeah, he was fighting at welterweight.
Yeah, or he was
now he's fighting at.
No, I say a year ago. It was like 2019. He was retired. He's like, I'm never making it to the UFC. He retired, and then he decided to get off the couch and take a couple fights, and then the UFC call finally happened, and look at it. He's now 3-0, and just beating really tough guys. And
his last fight was against a decent name.
And it just happened like a couple weeks ago too.
I know, like 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
So
and wow, I'm going to be rooting for Curtis, but I like Jack too. So I mean, you can't lose.
Yeah.
Can't lose in that fight.
Yeah.
And you mentioned a couple fighters that had recently retired.
Well,
that are not actually retired.
Let's kind of go over couple injury updates on some champions.
Okay.
Alexander Volkanovski. He suffered a broken thumb again in the Max Holloway fight, and he's going to have to undergo surgery to repair it. They said his recovery time is going to be about 12 weeks. Before he can start training again. He talked about wanting to be active, but if you're having to take 3 months off before you can train again, it's looking like December at the earliest for him, if even this year. So it's kind of a setback to the division, especially because after Volkanovski, he fought in April, he fought in July, and we all remember his interview saying he wants to be active, talking like somebody who wants to fight 4 or 5 times a year, so this is going to slow him down. And then Carla Esparza, who was claiming that she had injuries that she didn't want to talk about and needed MRIs on them. They all came back clean, and she won't have to undergo any surgeries. And this is kind of like a weird thing. It almost felt like they were trying to pressure her to fight in October. And all of a sudden she claims she was injured, but she has no proof of injuries. I think it was a lot of people think, I'm not going to say I'm one of them. A lot of people think that she's trying to stay the champion as long as possible and didn't want to rush in October, but she's going to have to fight before the end of the year against Wei Li. So we'll see when that fight happens.
That was my thought.
Yeah.
You said you weren't. I'll admit it. That's instantly what I thought.
Yeah.
So.
She's openly talked about she won that title and then she rushed right into her first defense against Joanna, and she never really got to enjoy time as a champion. And she very clearly talked about wanting to enjoy time as a champion, which meant like, I don't see her fighting until the end of the year. Not when I see her fighting on her schedule, not the UFC schedule.
We got Nate Diaz is going to be fighting on the UFC 277 card.
Nope. It's just the Nate.
Nope?
It's Nate.
Oh.
It's Nate. He's doing a thing.
I know.
He's doing a thing with Ariel tomorrow, but it's Nate. You know, he said July 30th would be a nice departure date, and you know, he wants.
It's too bad because that card could use Nate Diaz.
He wants out, but you know, it's just like I said, the Jake Paul fight ain't gonna happen. I mean, this whole Jake Paul thing is, especially with what's going on against with this Hasim Rockman fight, you know, and Jake Paul, who is advocating for wanting the UFC to pay the fighters better. He's advocating for that, but he's bitching about Hasim Rockman Jr. wanting more money. He's basically wanting to pay Hasim Rockman Jr. what a UFC prelim person would fight. Here he is advocating for UFC to pay the fighters better, but he doesn't want to pay fighters and opponents and agree to have opponents make decent money. It's just he's.
Are you telling?
He's a fucking hypocrite.
Me Jake Paul is.
He's a fucking hypocrite. I was
going to say, are you telling me he's negotiating in bad faith?
He's being a hypocrite. You know, he's just grandstanding thing, which is funny. Which is funny because I saw somebody bring up this point about how his last two pay-per-views have bombed, and somebody was, you know, and the Ben Askren fight did good, but the two Tyron Woodley fights didn't do good at all. And somebody was saying that the only reason the Ben Askren fight did any good was because of Dana, because Dana was invested in kind of like talking about that fight and kind of almost promoting it, and that was kind of like Dana backing Ben Askren in the fight. And then now that Dana is just like, you know, ignoring Jake Paul, and Jake Paul is still trying to go after Dana, but Dana's ignoring him, and now all of a sudden his pay-per-views are bombing. So it's just funny.
Even Ben Askren did a better job promoting that than, you know, anybody else that's been in any of these joke fights. Like, I remember he was all over the place, doing that. I mean, I brought it up earlier and then you cut me off, but it's fine because it wasn't time. But Felice Herring, she hung up her gloves a couple weeks ago and she's putting on some different. Well, she's going to fight without gloves, so she didn't need her gloves because she's fighting in bare knuckle fighting, even though they actually wear gloves. But that shocked me. I guess I shouldn't have been shocked, but. You'd think that she would just stick around in UFC if she wanted to keep fighting, but I don't know. Maybe she was going to get cut.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny how somebody wants to talk about how she makes so much money from OnlyFans that she doesn't need to be fighting. I guess bare knuckle, you know. I don't know how the hell.
Well, Paige said the same thing.
I don't know how the hell bare knuckle is able to pay all these fighters what they are apparently making. There has to be some kind of money laundering scheme going on. And
well, how does PFL pay $1 million to 6 people every year on shows that nobody watches in front of no fans?
Well, you forget it seems like every 2 months that PFL all of a sudden has new investors putting in millions of dollars.
$30 million from A-Rod.
They somehow coerce people into investing, and that's how they pay their fighters. And then, but are these people who are investing actually getting any return on what they're investing? I don't think so. It just seems like it's, you know,
it's a good tax write-off, I guess.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Jimmy Flick.
Yeah.
Retire. I didn't even remember him retiring, but you say he's back now.
Yeah,
he's in the testing pool.
Yeah, he retired because he was concerning about pay and 401k and no pension and post-fight life, and you know, he just he abruptly retired, and then all of a sudden, like, you know, here it is a year later, he's like, nope, I'm coming back. So just kind of, you know.
Yeah. Who cares?
Yeah.
I mean,
he's an exciting fighter, you know, and there was a lot of talk about him, you know, coming up as a flyweight prospect. You know, he's only had one UFC fight, but you know, and he's got a little bit of a personality, so it's a good
All right. Maybe
it's a good re-addition to the division.
Sure. And Antonio Carlos Jr. is out of the PFL playoffs, defending champion, replaced by Josh Silvera, which is, I'm sure everybody cares a ton about that. But I mean, I'm sure this is the first of many changes we're going to get before those playoffs actually happen.
Yep.
They're in London, I think, for those at least one night of those playoffs. I think.
Yeah.
And then I think back in Florida for the other night or something.
Yeah, New York.
I know Kayla
New York
Harrison's
for the other ones.
Or New York.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.